We're back here on our program, The Platform, and we are talking about Nygard International celebrating its 50th anniversary in the fashion business. It is a huge company, the #1 fashion company in Canada, and with employees in many countries of the world. And it is a company that made a great name for itself over the last 50 years. And Bianca, your father always talked about coming from humble beginnings in Finland, eh?
Yes, yes. He's rags to riches story, really. But they were doing well in Finland. But my grandparents wanted to give them a better life. There was going to be the Cold War, and they needed to move. So they went to Canada, and not speaking any English or anything. So they moved there and really had to live in a converted coal bin and with a family, and then they got this little room, you know, and go to the bathroom in an outhouse, but it's in Canada, so the outhouse would be in the snow, and try to learn English, try to get their food, little food that they could get. And so it is really from humble beginnings, but it was the 4 of them, my dad and his sister, and then my grandparents, and they all stuck together and really worked together to help each one of them achieve their goals. And in the end, my grandparents had a wonderful bakery. Like I said, it was really successful, and my aunt has done very well, and my father too. So it's nice that, you know, they pushed through and did it together. Yeah,
so he bought into this little fashion company, and as I remember the story, as he told me, grew this company from strength to strength. Yes?
Yes, well, my dad really, he's been good at anything that he set his mind to do. So he has that kind of that instinct already, that intuitive instinct already in him. Even from a small boy, young boy, he had a paper route, you know, and he was doing his paper route, and soon he was only 9 or 11 or something, but soon he had the whole neighborhood pretty much working for him, doing this paper route, but under him. So he always was a good person at starting businesses.
He was always a good entrepreneur.
He was, yes.
And got other boys in the neighborhood to work for him, and he would sell them certain routes.
That's exactly what he did at such a young age. So it was very impressive to kind of see how his mind has always worked. But also not just allowing them to do it, he was leading the way. So he's always been a leader in it too, you know, which I think is very important. And he was a grocery boy also. He was packing the goods in the grocery store, and he likes to tell a story how he was thought he was the lead grocery boy in there, and he was doing everything because he was doing it like twice as much as the other kids in there, right? But then the big boss came with his big hands and like did double as much as my dad, and showed him really how it's supposed to be. And that taught my dad a lesson to where he would always do that, and which he does, you know. Like if I remember at Nygard50th, we would be, the load of plants would come in, and everybody would be there with the plants, you know, in their hands and everything, and walking back up to the grand hall where we're going to put it. And then I came down thinking I'm like so smart and put a barrel, get a barrel. My dad comes down like with the truck or something and puts it all in the back of the truck. So it's like you could just keep on getting better, right? And he's always right there to show you how to do that. So with the fashion design company, he went in there and he just said that it just felt like he'd been there before. It felt like he you know, he was supposed to be there. It felt like home to him, and it felt familiar. Even though he wasn't a fashion designer, like he didn't go to design school or anything like that, but he was a designer at heart.
The natural instincts, eh?
He did. And also it's the business instincts. So there was a test that was given to him by accident, and it was intended for other people, executive management. And then he took that, and then they were reading it and the results, and they were like, who is this? And so his boss, Nathan Jacob, that owned the whole company, which was Tan J, took him under his wing and everything. And when Nathan Jacob passed away, then my dad ended up really expanding this company, but the company was almost bankrupt, and now it's, you know, it's where it is today. billion-dollar company.
A billion-dollar company
right.
around the world. You know the story, eh?
Oh, yes.
Jeffrey?
Oh, yes.
And because you lived in California.
Yes.
And you...
When coming down here, that's when I really, you know, got to learn about Peter Nygard and what he created. And when Nygard Slims first opened here, that's when really started thinking about how I would pitch social media to fashion, because he brought all of that. How local designers could do some things that he's done, that he's innovated to promote themselves. He brought down really big fashion shows here and a lot of different attention that young designers here could benefit from. And always was trying to get a situation where, you know, and I'm sure that he's you know, he's done it so many different times in so many different places, New York, in Canada, but where you can feature young designers and he can kind of like take a look and give advice, because he has something to share, and not to mention the stem cell research, which can't thank him enough for, because that's going to be developing even past us.
Yes, so that is, there are many chapters in the development of Nygard International, and one of the chapters is the stem cell one. And a big chapter, Bianca, is the extent to which he has been very generous around the world, not only in the Bahamas, in Canada, where he spends a tremendous amount of money for breast cancer, in breast cancer research as well as education. Let's speak to that.
That's right. Well, breast cancer is very close to home with us, and even my grandmother had breast cancer. So my father's company spends over $1 million annually. I think it's $1.8 million annually on the breast cancer. It used to go to foundation, and then now my dad's gotten even more specific with it, and he actually picks out the doctors, and you know, he keeps on going to that next level, and now he's investing into, after one-on-one, like you said, he speaks to one-on-one. He interviewed the doctors and found them, and has chosen this step out to invest the money into really what he wants, a targeted way to try to find a cure to beat this terrible cancer that's killing so many people, right? And if you can't, so he's working on that, and then at the same time he's working on being preventative. It's really about being preventative, which is why he's enforcing not having anything causing cancer around if he can. You know what I mean? Like the food that we eat, right?
Yes. And I've seen many fashion shows and many promotions in Canada where there's a tremendous amount of enthusiasm for what Nygard International has been doing. And he's gotten quite a number of awards in Canada as well.
Yes, well, along with, we have, he actually has the breast cancer, when he gives the donations, he has the breast cancer survivors model in the fashion show. So he's really going more with having, you know, he doesn't hardly hire models anymore. He usually just uses everybody, the customer, because that's who he makes his clothes for. So it's always this kind of, what I love about my dad is it's always this out-of-the-box thinking. It's this new thinking, you know, so, and he's always kind of ahead of his time. Soon we might see everybody doing that. But yes, I'm glad that he gets recognized and gets awards for that. He has received a lot of awards.
He's got an award, well, awards from the Canadian government, from Her Majesty the Queen, from quite a number of organizations around the world. You know, I saw some photographs of what he has been doing in Africa. He is a folk hero in Kenya.
Yes. Well, he employs a lot of people over there, and also his factories are very clean and very nice working conditions. So everybody really loves him when he comes in. It's like a huge parade, and everybody's so happy when they see him. So it's really an honor for him. He's very touched by that.
Yes, he was very touched by the outpouring of love among his staff in Kenya, and as well as the staff in China. There is a misperception, I believe, of Peter Nygard. Bahamians, a lot of them, do not know of the fantastic international reputation that this man enjoys, Jeffrey.
Correct. I agree. I think that it's a strange economic time that we're in. A lot of people, many unemployed than ever before, I think, in our country. And here's someone one of the very few who's benefiting and whose business is growing. And that's not happening to many people. Yeah,
but you know, when you talk about the thousands of people he employs around the world, and what he's doing around the world, there are a whole lot of Bahamians who do not have an appreciation for the impact that he has made and continues to make in the fashion industry around the world, whether you're talking about China or Africa or Canada or the United States of America.
Agreed. Agreed. And not to mention, like I said, you can't forget the stem cell research. It hasn't come down to every single person, but it will. At a certain point, everyone's going to be touched by it, because we're living in these times that certain diseases that you can get outside, but as well as you can contract inside a hospital. That happened with my mother. My mother passed last year, and she contracted something within the hospital that I truly believe that stem cell research could have helped, because she was on the mend, and her being in there, her weakened immune system. So the stem cell research can strengthen the body as well as get rid of many different things that are inside. Yes. So the importance here is so great.
Yes, absolutely. And Peter Nygard has assembled some of the leading stem cell researchers from around the world. And I recall being in the United States of America and interviewing quite a number of medical practitioners who he had assembled. That was at a time when he wanted to do some big things in the Bahamas, and played a role in advising the then government about stem cell legislation in the country. And there was a tremendous amount of enthusiasm among members of the medical fraternity in the Bahamas as to what he was seeking to do. And so we do have stem cell legislation here in the Bahamas, and Peter Nygard played a role, had a hand in really pushing for that legislation.
Yes, well, he's always been thinking about the Bahamas. You know, he loves the Bahamas, and he loves to do everything in the Bahamas. So he thought that the Bahamas would be the ideal place for medical tourism, because we have the most beautiful oceans in the world, you know, and we have the most wonderful people, according to him, too, in the world. And families could come here and support their loved one that is here getting this medical treatment, you know, and still be on a vacation. And it would also be very, very healing for the person getting the treatment to be able to go outside and have this air and have this island that we're on, and plus how many jobs that would bring, how much more tourism would it bring. You know, it's we're competing so much with these outside islands so close to us, or like Cuba or everywhere, that it's like an ideal spot for this to have taken place. And unfortunately, you know, his plans were kind of, he was almost thinking about Baha Mar being that facility, really, you know, and so he had great plans for that, and he did push with everything that he could and really try to do everything that he could to rewrite the laws. And I think he played a very big role in getting the stem cells, and then even looking at Freeport. And I don't know if we're going to take off in that way anymore, but I know that he has moved on now. And for himself, at that time too, you know, he has been out of the box. He always, like I said, and before his time, right? So maybe we just haven't got up to what his big plan was. But for himself, he said, okay, I'll just try it out on myself. I'm just going to do everything. I'll be the guinea pig. And then now we see him, and every time we see him, he's turning younger. So it's kind of, you know, if he's willing to test it out on himself and he's turning younger, maybe we'll be like, okay, maybe that's not such a bad idea, because I'm looking like his sister now and not his daughter.
Is that right?
That's right. I'm ready for my stem cell treatments.
Yes, you know, he does have his physique is much improved. There was a time when he will tell you that he had a huge stomach, and he was not in optimum health. Eh?
But he was still, at that time, he was still athletic. People would still look at him and say, you look good for your age. You know, that was 69. He still looked good for 69. He was still playing beach volleyball with the Bahamian national volleyball team every single night. He was still working hard. He was still doing everything. But yes, he was having some beer, Coors Light that he likes. He was having his carbs. He was having his desserts. And he wasn't working out other than the volleyball, you know. And he had to look at himself and really say, I don't want to look good for my age at 69. I want to look like how I looked when I was 30. And also his tests were not showing up that well. I think he was on the borderline of diabetes, if not diabetes, and reversed it. He needed to, you know, he needed to check himself, which is exactly what he did. And then now they're doing the tests, and these tests, not just the way he looks, but the actual tests are showing that he's reversing, which is very exciting. Well,
in this 50th year of his company, he is in his 70s now, but if you shook his hand, you would find that he has the grip of a 30, 40-year-old man. And so we're going to show a little bit of a video now.
Of the Rags to Riches story,
Of the Rags to Riches story of Peter Nygard, as we celebrate, and Bianca is going to be back here just about every week as we talk about various aspects of Nygard International, as they celebrate their 50th anniversary. We play Rags to Riches.
I wanted to take this opportunity to speak to you about an exciting new project at Dillard's. We are launching some new Nygard shops, which are some better merchandise from one of our best suppliers, Mr. Nygard's company in Canada. You couldn't ask for a better partner than Peter. First time I met him, I recognized that he was different from most of the suppliers that we deal with, and that I thought that his view was that it was a partnership between the supplier and the retail store to sell merchandise to the consumer, as opposed to most suppliers' view, which was to sell to Dillard's and hope that we sold it to the consumer. He is a logistics genius. He has more ideas in a day than most of our suppliers have in a year. I think that working with him has really changed the way I think about the retail business. The Nygard shops that we're about to introduce in our stores will offer a better presentation of merchandise than we have offered in the past. One of the exciting things is they will have the plasma screens where we can continually show images of Nygard product and fashion tips for the consumer. The presentation will be more fashion oriented, with forms, with tables, and with a lighter stock of merchandise per square foot than we have traditionally offered. All these, we think, speak toward giving the customer a fashion image that we believe makes the customer want to buy merchandise from us, because it makes them feel good about themselves and about their purchase. And we believe that's the right way to sell merchandise today. I think the Nygard shops that we are now moving forward with will be an opportunity to reach a whole new category of customer that we have not reached with Nygard product before. This product will be better product. It will have more style to it, more fashion, and will fit with what we're trying to do with our stores, which is to upgrade and to continue to offer the customer the most fashion-right merchandise at a great price.
Peter Nygard was born in Helsinki, Finland, and raised in Winnipeg, Canada. His humble roots would lead him on an indescribable adventure from rags to riches. The Nygard family's first home in Canada was nothing more than a 15-foot by 13-foot room.
We lived in a converted coal bin. We didn't have running water, we didn't have heat. We lit up a stove that was middle of the room. It heated the place, we cooked on it, we had a rusty barrel, we melted snow, we were 40 below zero, going to outdoor toilet somewhere, we slept in one bed, we all sagged in the middle of it, laundry and everything over the kitchen table. We collected bottles to make it food.
Since those days, Peter's lifestyle has changed dramatically.
The house is 4.5 acres in size. It's got lagoons and little roads so that you can swim around. There is a swimming pool
in the house.
Inside the house. Inside the house in the living room is a 60-foot duplicate of the Matterhorn mountain that you can climb up and then dive off from the top into the swimming pool. The swimming pool has a big piece of glass down the middle of it so that on one side you can swim with dolphins and on the other side are the sharks that you can look at through the glass.
Who owned this? Who owned this house?
He's single as well.
Gay?
No.
No, I mean,
Exactly the opposite.
the opposite.
Nygard now makes his home in his 150,000 square foot Nygard Key, Bahamas resort. In high school, Peter was honored to win his school's coveted Athlete of the Year award, and today is still an avid tennis and volleyball player. Peter's outstanding scholastic performance at the University of North Dakota led to a job at Eaton's. During his interview with the Canadian retail giant, he would write a test intended for executive management. He would be identified as meeting the selection criteria for the future president of the company. Peter took his life savings plus an additional $8,000 to purchase 20% of the company. Within a few years, he owned it outright.
I gambled my whole life on this deal, going for this, without 1 ounce of training, and all of a sudden I was sit there all by myself, with my whole biggest gamble of my life, and all my money I had to gather at that point invested, and not even training, not even a moment.
In 1978, Nygard opened his 100,000 square foot Inkster plant in Winnipeg, and the company has not stopped growing since. Nygard International now has offices in New York, California, Toronto, China, and Montreal, delivering to over 200 of its own retail stores worldwide. Peter's adventures have put him in company with some of the world's most famous and influential people, from Oprah Winfrey to Sean Connery to President Bush. He chaired the advisory committee that led to the development of the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, and has led the way in technological advancements in the fashion industry.
I propose a toast to one of the great designers and probably the greatest designer in North America, Peter Nygard. Peter?
We have brought to the customer a product that is beautifully made of first-class, world-class fabrics with great fashion and creative genius, if I could say that about Peter and what he brings to the product.
Nygard's We Stand United campaign has earned him recognition in both Canada and the U.S. But Peter Nygard has not forgotten where he came from. He annually donates $1.8 million to the cause that hits home with women around the world: breast cancer.
In this world, you have to learn how to do 3 things. You have to learn how to make money, you have to learn how to keep money, and then you have to learn how to spend money. And ladies and gentlemen, I could not think of a better way to have learned to spend money than to support a cause like this, to be able to support breast cancer.
Peter's journey has seen him rise to the #1 position in women's fashion in Canada and a renowned position in the industry.
Oh, it's fabulous. Are you kidding me? I wear Nygard. Can't wait to get my hands on a bunch of it.
This year, the company celebrates a new milestone in its history with the opening of the new world headquarters in the middle of Times Square in New York.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rita Cosby, host of the hit MSNBC show, Rita Cosby Live and Direct. I want to congratulate my friend Peter Nygard on his official grand opening of the Nygard World Headquarters in Times Square, New York. You truly are a rags to riches story, Peter. You've gone from a young boy traveling from Finland to Canada, living in a converted coal bin, barely making ends meet, to now acquiring your own Nygard building right in the heart of Times Square. Boy, do you know how to make it big. Back in 1967, your determination and business savvy led you to purchase a small fashion organization, only to rename it Nygard and then turn it around from near bankruptcy into the bustling billion-dollar dynasty that it is today. That's a major accomplishment. Today, Nygard is considered one of the top Canadian companies when it comes to information technology, and by far one of the finest companies in the world when it comes to combining technology and fashion. No one does it better than you. So congratulations on your expansion, Peter. I have always enjoyed wearing your Peter Nygard signature clothes, as you can tell, as my career takes me around the world and also around the nation. I feel I always look my best because of you. After making your mark in Times Square, I don't know how you will top this one, but I have a strong feeling that you're going to somehow. Keep up the great work, Peter. We are all so proud of you.
Well, we've seen the Rags to Riches video, and we've seen, Bianca, we've been showing a lot of health videos on this program.
Yes.
And as you said earlier on, we are getting a number of reviews of the program, whether we were talking about hypertension, whether we are talking about people who have been disabled in many ways, who are challenged in many ways. You try to bring a variety of guests on our program to show the involvement of Nygard International in health and fitness and improving the health and the lifestyles of people.
Yes, and I think it's really working. I see all kinds of opportunity here now.
Yes.
Yes.
Very good. Well, Jeffrey, you are very good, and you have expressed your enthusiasm of what Peter Nygard and his company, what they have been about over the years, and you continue to follow this company all the time, eh?
I shall.
Yes. And you continue to work with social media.
Thank you very much, yes.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Bianca.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here today. Thank you for watching and listening to our program. Good evening, everyone.